Well, all I can say is, oh my, after that introduction, there really isn't much more for me to add. I am awed, honored, excited, humbled, and very nervous to be here. Who of you out there would not be nervous following Toni Morrison and Vishaka? I mean, this is just too much. I am pleased to accept this extraordinary award in the good company of all of you, colleagues, artists, friends, and family. I see so many faces in this audience who have helped, inspired, and challenged me on my journey. I cannot thank you all individually in this speech, but I am so grateful that you have traveled to be here with me today. As I thought about what to say, and as I reviewed past remarks, I am struck by how absolutely fortunate so many of us are to have been offered and seized so many unusual opportunities. I know I have had many. Like Vishaka, I got my start in Cleveland, she at the venerable Cleveland Museum of Art, and I at the New Gallery. When my youngest son, Adam, went off to kindergarten, I started working in fashion, but segued into a position with Marjorie Talalay at the New Gallery, now MoCA Cleveland, run by Jill Snyder, an institution that has been a significant fact in my career. After working and learning from Marjorie for 12 years, I received a call from Peter Lewis asking if I would consider setting up an office and curating an art collection at Progressive. Took me a nanosecond to accept that. Few of us have ex-husbands who would offer us the opportunity to amass one of the best contemporary corporate art collections in the country. But Peter gave me a chance to do just that. He always asked me to do my best and then better than my best. And when I started in 1985, the then collection consisted of 400 prints. When I left Progressive, retiring in 2004, there were more than 6,300 pieces in the collection, spanning 3 decades and including art from around the world. We filled Progressive offices across the country with paintings, drawings, photographs, and sculpture. I relished introducing art without any given theme into what had been simply a box of cubicles, computers, filled with numbers, charts, and a focus on the bottom line. My objective was to challenge employees to think outside that box and to confront them face to face, above and below, inside out, upside down, with 2-dimensional 3Ds and video art. My only limitation was that I could not spend more than $10,000 a piece. Sometimes, I'm proud to say, I even bought something for $100. I had no red tape, no committee approval for any of these purchases. Sometimes I created controversy, but I always challenged with the unknown. It is difficult to know precisely how the art touched each individual, but the effects were obvious. During Halloween, which was a very big holiday at Progressive, I began to notice that people began to dress up as their favorite piece of art. Red Groom's geisha, pita coins, wax drippy, sculpture, now that was a costume. And they would ask sometimes to purchase their art when they left the company, and others demanded to know what it all meant. I indeed had the world's best job. For over 20 years, I was also able to participate with the graphic design team at Nisnodny and Schwartz in creating Progressive's annual report, which has garnered numerous awards throughout the years. In every report, we challenged an emerging artist or a group of artists to take on a theme and run with it, and that they did. I loved the process of identifying an artist and matching it up with corporate themes designated by the CEO to communicate Progressive's objectives to the public. We addressed the issues of risk, values, safety, transparency, and diversity, to name a few. None of this could have happened without the guidance of many people who lovingly ushered me through the streets of New York and around the world. I want to acknowledge a few and to remember Arthur Feldman, Marjorie Talalay, and Marcia Tucker, all of whom I miss. Arthur's knowledge of prints and printmaking, Marjorie's eye, and understanding of the local, national, and international scene, and Marcia's absolute gusto inspired me. When I left the corporate world's most wonderful job in 2004, Peter continued to encourage me on my next career, which was philanthropy. I am so thankful to have had the opportunity to have two careers in which I have had the constant ability to learn, excite, accomplish, and set new standards. Recently, I read a letter that Bill Gates composed about his ventures in philanthropy. He talked about engaging with other people who knew things that he did not, and about the opportunity to give them the resources necessary to tackle the challenges that they face. In the current economy, the art world anxiously awaits its fate. I come fully armed, having launched in 2006 the Toby Fund. My main goal is to encourage and support artists to reflect, document, change, and challenge us to think about the possible and the impossible. I treasure the opportunity I have had to support these individual artists. They are the seers of the future. One initiative I have begun with the Toby Fund offers fellowships to a select group of MFA students from the best art schools around the country. While scholarships are common for undergraduates, they are rare for postgraduate work in the arts. I have been thrilled with the use of these funds and delight in receiving personal letters from these artists, their only obligation to me. I am so moved by this work that I thought I'd read two excerpts from some of these letters. From a Columbia University MFA graduate, quote, "I became interested in the texts I would see in the subways and ended up marking a series of handbills that appropriated the security information on posters in the subway by changing one of them from saying, 'If you see anything suspicious, please let someone know immediately,' to 'If you see anything interesting, please let someone know immediately," unquote. And from an MFA graduate from UCLA who is working on a video production dealing with the legacy of the U.S. colonialism in the Philippines, quote, "I was struck by the deterioration of the buildings. Only the facade or the skeletal walls of the architecture remained. Trees grew through the roofs and windows, poetically observing a time of both the U.S. desire to consolidate power and the resistance that seemed to emanate from the land itself. I was awash with ideas," unquote. Supporting these artists invigorates me. I have particularly enjoyed my work with Lisa Phillips and the board at the new museum, where I have endowed the Emerging Artists Exhibition Fund that has led to new commissions over the years by such exceptional artists as Sanford Biggers, Rachel Harrison, and Getty Saboni. I am also honored to have played a role in building the new home, and please, when you go there, don't miss the 7th floor views from the Sky Room. Supporting programs as I have at Creative Capital to help artists in emerging fields, whatever they may be, delights me, as does working with Ruby Lerner. Performa's Biennial Performance Art Festival is another project that gives me a thrill. The energy and creativity that abound all over the city is nothing short of a miracle, thanks to the hard work of Rosalie Goldberg and so many others. And speaking of miracles, recently when Timothy Rubb, the director of the Cleveland Museum of Art, was asked to offer names of candidates to speak at an arts summit, he listed some of the most creative artists working on incredible community projects. Quote, "If you want to point to a forward-looking example of civic engagement of the arts, to a curatorial exercise that focused on the intersection between the arts, politics, economics, and society, I can think of nothing that did it better than Prospect One." Unquote. This seed investment for me and Dan Cameron have exceeded my expectations. And I did not know New Orleans well, but I certainly do now. Another opportunity I have been lucky enough to have was to create my own book. I want to thank my family for urging me, after I retired, to write and publish Artworks, the story of the Progressive Collection. When my family first approached me to undertake the project, I thought, no way, I had never published or written or published a word, but they convinced me that the stories needed to be told. The history, the controversy, and the collection needed to be surveyed, and that this would be a great contribution to the legacy of art at Progressive. The fruits of those labors now rest on your tables. I cannot tell you how much I loved this project, working with Toni Morrison, Mark Schwartz, the designer of the book, Peter Lewis, and Dan Cameron, and how it brought the collection to life. So I thank you, ArtTable, from the bottom of my heart. And I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share the joys of my continuing career. Stay tuned. There is certainly more to come. Thank you.